Good morning, crypto Twitter, it's Misty Crypto, spreading crypto with doctors showing its benefits. So to my generation, shout out to all my people. Jesse needs to be included, it's really that simple. We are savage, amazed, boss, zesty, making money at the same time, spread peace. I feel empty if you don't include Gen Z. About to change the world, so y'all better get ready. Misty Crypto, I'm never backing down. I got a wax account, you should check it out. So many NFTs, I think I lost count, and I'm only getting started. Yeah, barely off the ground. Misty Crypto, you cannot stop me. My hands are made from diamond, your hands fall like origami. Never be the boss of me. Bitcoin's all I need. When I say I'm zesty, that's just me talking on the stage. Crypto and yum bomb marketplace. I wanna see the more. We gotta go through cyberspace. Leave this world without a trace. Save pay for a different day, 'cause we partners in the cryptos didn't stay.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Miss Teen Crypto Show. I hope you guys are having a happy Friday. If you were hearing giggles, we are giggling. We are having a great time today. And yes, I said Friday because we are celebrating the end of the week. We have worked hard, we are chilling, and we deserve this moment to hang out and talk crypto and life. Before we get started, as always, we're going to shout out 3 amazing sponsors of the Miss Teen Crypto Show. First being Wax Blockchain. I believe they're attending NFT NYC. They're sponsoring, I think, one venue, so definitely stop by. I think William Quigley is going to speak as well if you guys want to go check him out. Next, niftyblocks.com. Great trade to earn platform if you're looking to buy, sell, or mint some wax NFTs. Lastly, Ballet. Killing the game as always. Looking for a nice Father's Day gift? Maybe an easy crypto wallet will help them out. During the show, our zesty guest will put a word into the group chat, or I will put it into the group chat, and whoever I pick out of the people that write that zesty word in the chat, just send me an email on Twitter. So it's just DM me your email and we'll get started. I'll get you connected with the ballet team. So thank you for Josef Holm for tuning in and hanging out with us today. You are so interesting. You really are like one of the most interesting people I've met in crypto in terms of what you've done and just like your thought process, how you've got to the place you're at. So I would love if like maybe you could just describe like where you grew up even. Like let's go a little deep. Like where did you grow up?
All right. Hey, first of all, thanks for having me. Friday afternoon here. I'm in Austria right now, but I'm all caffeinated up, so I'm ready to go and looking forward to a fun hour.
All that Red Bull.
Yeah. So like I just said, I'm in Austria right now. That's where I was born and raised. Left many years ago, but grew up about 200 kilometers south of Vienna in a town called Graz, and I guess that's where I had my first like entrepreneurial kind of endeavor. And I thought about this today before the show. I was like, what was the first thing I actually did to make money? Because, you know, I was born into an artist family, right? Artist, AKA always broke, you know, no allowance, no pocket money. The nice things in life didn't come by easily. So I had to figure out how to make money and you know, take care of them myself. So the first thing I actually did, I think, to figure out how to make money was when I was 10 or 11 years old. And there is this funny tradition in the countryside in Austria when people get married. You know, they go to the village church and there is the whole wedding ceremony, and then the whole caravan of cars goes back to the farm for, you know, to party, essentially. And I saw a bunch of guys, they literally had a rope like tied to a tree across the road, and they stopped every single car and gave them a shot of like clear liquor, like schnapps, alcohol, all right, like from this big bottle. And they got hefty tips for it. And we saw it and we're like, boom, that's what we have to do. So we figured out all the weddings in the area and went to all of them and had our little rope, had like a bottle of schnapps. And you would get like, you know, $5-10 per car, that times 50, sometimes 100 cars. That was a lot of money for a 10, 11-year-old. It was me and my best friend. It was our little scheme, right? And the booze, we literally, you know, usually got it for free from my grandma. And it's so funny, you know, it's a part of growing up in the 80s, I guess, when no one thought anything was wrong with, you know, 10-year-olds
literally selling alcohol
by the side of the road. for money. But that was the first thing I did to make money, and it was a good scheme that went on for 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years. So that was like relentless. And your grandmother was like, did she know what you guys were doing? Did she ask like, do you have a drinking
Oh yeah,
problem
absolutely. She
or?
charged us for the booze later too.
Wow. So your grandma wanted to profit too. She's like, I
She
got to
was
get in the
in on it. Oh
biz.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's so brilliant. So that was 10 years old. And what was your first job? Like, what was your first official job?
Wow, what was my first official job? Well, I'm a high school dropout, so
Oh,
I dropped out of high school at 17 because I guess my first job was my best friend then and we organized rave parties. Like rave parties were a big thing in the 90s, right? We're talking like 95, 97 here, okay? And we had like this whole little production team set up. I had a cell phone before anyone had a cell phone in
wow.
Austria, and we, would make more money on a weekend than our teachers did in a year. So it just became really difficult to sit in class and listen to them while the phones were going off and we're selling sponsorships to energy drink brands and what have you. So we did that. I guess that was my first business. I remember, like, I sold my first sponsorship to one of these events in the boys' bathroom in school. Like I was
Oh
in the
my
stall on the
gosh.
phone, negotiating with the guy and closing the first deal.
That's so funny.
So
That
that kind
remind
of that was the end of my school career.
So what were you, a junior? Like a year away from graduating? Were you in
Yeah,
your last year or?
yeah, I was 17, my last year. I just
Wow.
couldn't do it anymore.
I mean, I feel you. I was 17 and doing Twitter Spaces during school as well. So like I feel you. I was kind of in like that moment where I was kind of done with school and it's like I guess it's like mentally you're over it. Right? Like it's
Yeah.
just like you're sitting there and you almost don't see a point anymore because your mind is just really somewhere else. And dealing with the business at that age, that's a lot of responsibility. Did your parents support that decision of like you running your own business and like kind of just forgetting about school and not finishing it out? Especially because you were close
Um,
to.
Once I started to make money, they did.
Yeah,
Before they didn't at all. But then again, they're both artists, so they're not traditional people. So
exactly.
it was kind of, yes, they supported me a lot, actually. I have to say, in all fairness, but it wasn't easy. The first few years were difficult until they accepted it, and then it was just the way it was. And I later had a company with my mom, a travel business in the Maldives, because I spent 2 years in the Maldives building a ship like right after high school. My dad actually had a company in the Maldives and decided to build like a 90-foot, 95-foot, two-mast sailing boat. But he didn't build it like in a country where big ships are usually built. He built it on a local island in the Maldives. So I went there and I stayed there for 2 years and I supervised the whole construction side of things without knowing anything about ship construction at all. So I had to learn everything on the fly, and that was kind of my school of hard knocks, because it was like all family's money was in that business, and if that didn't work out, it would have had catastrophic effects on my family. So there was that all pressure on me to make it all work, and that's kind of when I think I learned that you just have to push through and just make shit happen, not worry about it too much.
Exactly. Just make it happen. I really like that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, like I was saying this to you before the show, not a lot of people have the courage you do to do what you do. Just the fact that you dropped out of high school was absolutely like crazy. A lot of people would not support that at all. And you just really
Oh no,
you just took life by, you know, and you just went for
my
it.
mom got my classmates to send me letters pleading with me to come back to school and not to throw away
No
my life and
way.
all this and that. And the funny thing is, 20 years later, these guys are my accountants, they're my lawyers, like, they work for me. Well, I'm glad they went to school and to uni, right?
That's so funny. So you
But
actually have classmates that work for you now
not
or with
right now,
you?
but I used to, yes.
Wow, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of cool to see like the way they went and the way you went as well. Like, you're still successful when they were literally writing you letters to come back to school. Did you ever doubt in that moment when you were receiving these letters, like, hey, like maybe I should go back, or you were just still like mentally kind of past it?
I was already checked out. I wanted to do something else. I just wanted to start a business, grow it, make money, do my own thing, travel the world. I left Austria when I was 23, right? So I got
Wow.
into internet marketing, and we're talking about the Yahoo days. So 97, 98. when I figured out how to build websites, and I figured out how to get traffic on YouTube, and I figured out how to make affiliate commission, pretty much selling any kind of product that pays an affiliate commission online. And then that whole thing just turned into a lifestyle business. You could literally, you could buy, YouTube, Yahoo wasn't a search engine like Google. It was more like a searchable directory, and you could submit a website for, I think, $200 or something for the express submission. And then for the first 3 days, that listing would be on the top 3 of the whole category, and it would just get you a massive amount of traffic. So for the $200 listing, you could make like $10,000 in the first weekend, and just rinse and repeat, just build more websites, and just submit them to Yahoo and collect affiliate checks. So that's how I got into online marketing and lead funnels and all that fun stuff. That allowed me to travel the world. So I just packed up my laptop and moved to Australia for a year because I felt like it. And then a friend called me and wanted me to invest in his record label. So I moved to Berlin for a year.
Wow.
And I just hopped around, and I did Switzerland, mostly for tax reasons. And then I moved to Panama for a few years because that was a nice place. And then I started going to California and met friends there, and I fell in love with California. And a few years later, I moved to California right after I met my wife.
Whoa. So that was a lot to unpack. So you went from Austria, you were in Australia for a little bit, Berlin. So
Berlin.
you were into music too. Like what did you do in the music industry? Like you were just investing in a record label? Like
I invested in a record label, and that label produced a hip hop album, and it was just the whole thing. It
was a no-go.
A black hole. It was just burning money without any end in sight. So at some point, I just cut my losses and moved on. It was a fun experience. My dad is a musician, so that's my connection to the music industry. And that's why I felt drawn to it. But I learned my lesson there. It's funny about entrepreneurship, right? It's all about, like, at its core, entrepreneurship is about making money. You're going to make a shit ton of money. You're going to lose a shit ton of money. The secret really is to make more than you lose, right?
Yeah.
Then you're ahead. Because, not everything I did worked out, like by no means. And that's also, I think, for the topic of your show and serial entrepreneurship, I think that's a really important lesson, that perseverance, and just keep going and pushing and get up and dust yourself off and just try again until something works out, right? That's still the biggest secret to success for anyone. It was back then, it's now, it's just a universal truth.
Wow, that is pretty deep. I mean, was that like one big thing? Like, what was one thing you invested in that just completely flopped? Like, was that the biggest thing that flopped? Was something that like really hurt?
The single biggest one was a record label.
Yeah.
That was a couple of mil, just poof.
Yeah. And what was like something you learned from that? Like, what is something you learned from that where you're like, okay, in the future, I have to look for A, B, and C?
It's really tough, because you always, now speaking as an investor and from a DGH perspective, in the early stages of a startup, you invest in teams, and teams can always, the dynamics change, people change.
Yeah.
It's very, very risky. Would I do anything significantly different? I'm not sure. I'd probably make the same mistakes again. I think it's just part of it.
Yeah.
You just, like I said before, just have more wins than losses, and then you're fine.
Exactly. And when you moved to California, is that where you found like a Draper Goren, and how did Draper Goren Home start? Because and do you mind explaining what Draper Goren Home is?
Yeah, sure. It was interesting, actually, because when I moved to California, I really just moved out of my love for California.
Yeah.
It was, my time in Panama was coming to an end. I had my last exit. I had a little bit of money in the bank. And during some time back in Austria, I actually met my wife on a blind date. And we started dating and just fell in love immediately. And 9 months later or 10 months later, we moved to California together. And I told her, I was like, hey, look, here's a return ticket. If you don't like it, just fly back home. There, no strings attached. And we went there and stayed in Santa Monica for almost 10 years.
Wow.
We got married there. We have 2 kids now. And my whole life, everything I have and do now, is a direct result of my time in California. You know, I got into the crowdfunding space through the online marketing. So I've stumbled across Kickstarter, and I looked at it and I was like, well, that's stupid. Why would you give someone money for a t-shirt? You should be selling equity in your company like that to people. And I started writing this business plan and do my research, and pretty quickly found out that, oh wait, that's not legal. You can actually sell securities to non-accredited investors in the United States. And that's at that point, I already went down the rabbit hole of crowdfunding and pivoted a little bit and built a different startup and started going to conferences. And that's where I met Alon, because Alon also was in the crowdfunding space and had a company called Invested In, which was essentially a white label platform for crowdfunding sites. So you could like spin up your own crowdfunding site with a few clicks and your own logo. And I think Coca-Cola and a few other big companies were customers of his. And in that short time span, when crowdfunding was quite the hype. So I met Alon, and we go to all these conferences, and we just hate the conferences because it was always service providers talking to service providers and lawyers. There weren't any deals, there weren't any investors, there wasn't anything going on. So we were like, screw this, we're gonna produce our own conference, and launched Crowd Invest Summit that same year. And just went a different route. We're like, we need a mainstream speaker. So we got Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank to keynote the conference, and just made sure that we have a lot of press there. It's not like this incestuous kind of service provider gathering, but really bring in people, bring in deals, bring in investors. And that went pretty well. I mean, it instantly became the biggest crowdfunding conference in the US. And we did that for 2 or 3 years. And then in 2016, 2017, you know, with all the ICO craze happening, crowdfunding kind of turned into ICOs, and nobody wanted to talk about crowdfunding anymore. Everything was just crypto and ICOs. And we just quickly pivoted and rebranded the conference from Crowd Invest Summit to Crypto Invest Summit. And that year it really blew up and went from 1,500 attendees to 6,000 attendees. I mean, the first Crypto Invest Summit we did, people were literally trying to knock down the door. Like, we had security pushing people back. Like, it was right after Bitcoin hit 20,000 for the first time, right? So early 2018. So we just knew we were onto something. And that's also when Tim started to come and speak at our conferences. And because of our crowdfunding and educational background, we always had a very strong focus on education and mainstream adoption. We had the same kind of concept on the crypto side of things. And Tim really liked that. And that was one of the big reasons why he decided to invest in us and partner with us. Because you see, we were successful in the sense that we had a lot of deal flow come through the conference all of a sudden, but we were sitting on the sidelines as the conference producer, not being able to participate in any of these deals because we didn't have a fund.
Exactly.
So we decided to launch the venture studio and raise money. And that's when we went to Tim, and he was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And, the end result was Draper, Goren, Holm and the venture studio and fund 2. And now, now I'm in the UAE, setting up fund 3 and venture studio 2 and our new conference there, BuildCon. And so, in a nutshell, that's how the whole thing came to be.
So your first event with Alon was 2018?
I think 2016 or 17, actually.
Wow, that's like really early. That's insanely early. And when did you find Bitcoin? And like were you like crypto friends with Alon, or it was just because of crowdfunding?
So I have to admit that I'm one of these guys who was a very big skeptic of Bitcoin. When I had an office in Vienna back in the day with about 20 people, and there was like a server farm that was set up for video transcoding. And my CTO back in the day was like, hey, can we mine Bitcoin on these servers when they're not working? And I was like, what's Bitcoin? I was like, oh, dude, it's this cool new cryptocurrency. And I was like, yeah, whatever, you scam coin, you internet money, do whatever you want. So that was like 2009, right? Like really, really early.
What?
So
So
he
Toshi was
starts
still
mining.
on Reddit or
He
on
starts
papers.
mining on our like 25 or 30 server rack. And he was mining for a year, maybe a year and a half, until we threw out the servers to replace them with new ones. And at that point, Bitcoin was still so low that he decided it wasn't worth the money actually getting the coins off the machine. So we should throw out, I don't know how many thousands of Bitcoins we threw out. and I knew about it and I approved it. And now I have to live with that, but it's fine, you know, because I caught up a lot since then, and it's a fun story to tell. And it reminds me to be more open-minded when I hear crazy new concepts now. Like Bitcoin certainly was for me back then.
Whoa. I can't even imagine how many Bitcoin were on there, because I believe at the start
I don't
it was
even
the
know, but
block
those were
reward
strong.
was
Those were strong servers, right? Like they were like way ahead of the standard. Like you could mine on your laptop back then, right? You didn't even need
the
any
block
miners.
reward was, I believe, 50 Bitcoin at the beginning.
Yeah,
So
it
if
was insane.
they were powerful servers mining in 2009, what? I don't know
I
if we
don't
can
even
talk
know how
about
many
this
there
anymore.
were really, because we didn't look in the end. We just threw them out.
Oh gosh, that bag must be heavy, man. Heavy.
No, it's not. It's funny.
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't cry over spilled milk. There's
No,
really
you can't. You can't look back at that. But there's so many stories like that, which makes you think how many Bitcoin are gone just like because of things like that. When, you know, people just like, you know, weren't aware really, and weren't educated. Like you didn't really know much about the subject. And so that was 2009. When did like you finally say, okay, like Bitcoin, this is something I should pay attention to?
2017.
Whoa.
2016, 17. Yeah, that's when I got back on board.
And what made you get
that's
back
when
on
I
board?
finally got on board and I understood, actually took the time to read the white paper, understand the technology, and changed my mind, obviously.
What stood out to you? What was something that like had like what was your light bulb moment, I guess?
I think my light bulb moment was when I understood how banks work more and how the bail-in works, and how, you know, when you open a bank account and you transfer money into that bank account, how you assign ownership of that money over to the bank only in exchange for certain access rights. And a lot of people in Cyprus in 2010, it was, whenever they bailed out the banks and they did a bail-in, which means all your savings past 100,000 euros or so was confiscated by the banks to pay off their debt. I was like, wow, see, something like this couldn't happen with Bitcoin. And that's still to this day the one thing that I appreciate about Bitcoin the most. It's just uncensorable, immutable mind.
Exactly. It's yours, which is something that like a lot of people still don't grasp, is being their own bank. A lot of people are still very like, even people in my family are horrified when I'm like, be your own bank. Like you don't like, where's your money? Oh, in the bank. Like you don't need to do that anymore. And they're like, no, I don't want to hear that. And like, how do you have you had that happen as well? Like what would you say to somebody that's like, oh, I don't even want to talk about it, like, you know, the banks are never like, the banks are on my side, blah blah blah?
Well, I mean, have you ever gone to the bank and not gotten as much cash as you wanted? Because I have. I remember vividly in the early days of COVID in 2020, when there was like this fear of a run on the banks and the banks running out of cash. It's like, you know, maybe I should go down to my Wells Fargo, just pick up some cash, you know, have a little bit of cash at home. We're not talking about a lot of money. It was like 10 or 15 grand that I wanted. And mind you, I have my personal accounts there, the fund, and, you know, we're talking about a lot of money in that bank. And I go in there and I was like, yeah, I just want, you know, $10,000. Oh, there was a Monday, right? It was like, oh yeah, we don't have that much cash right now, but, you know, let me put down your information and I'm going to call you. And I think, you know, by Friday, we should have the cash. And I was like, what? You don't have $10,000 in cash for me right now? And she was like, yeah, you know, there's so many people coming asking for cash. It's like, well, now I really want it. And actually had to start a bit of an argument and threatened to close all of our accounts for them to give me the cash. And then the shocking part was they literally gave me fucking stacks of $5 bills. So they really didn't have the money. It's not just they didn't want to give it to me, they really didn't have it, right?
Wow.
And if that doesn't shake your faith in the banking system to the core, that they can just say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have it, come back, or oh, you're out of luck, or this ATM isn't working, right? That can never happen with Bitcoin. And anyone who's ever had that experience is immediately converted and doesn't want to work with banks anymore. So I think it really depends on whether or not people have had similar experiences. And then also younger people, I think, have, they're just more open and they're more, they're more receptive to new forms of money and new ideas of government. And older people, they just say no because they're scared of change. They don't want to change. They want things to stay the way they are.
That's absolutely true. A lot of people are scared of change, but this is a change that's gonna need to happen whether people want it or not. Is it like
It's already happening, right? Like this train has already left the station. So this is not up for debate whether or not it's gonna happen. That's why so many people are gonna lose out and miss out again. And just wait, when Bitcoin hits 100,000, they're gonna be like, oh my God, I wish I would have bought at 30. And now if you ask someone, they're like, no, I'm not buying this shit. So
yeah, it's
really
when the FOMO
sad.
kicks in.
And Web3 is still really, really hard to use. You see, last year I did something funny. Last year, I dedicated myself to onboarding 15 people to DeFi, people who have never done anything with crypto and DeFi, to teach them how, on a company that we invested in plenty on the Tezos blockchain. So, teach them how to download a Temple wallet, how to buy Tez, how to exchange them, how to stake them, how to do the yield farming and all this stuff. And boy, that taught me a lesson.
Yeah, once you said yield farming, I was like, 95% of people are out the frickin' door. Like,
oh, no. It started at the seed phrase.
Oh,
what
God.
do you mean don't lose it? Well, who can I call if I lose it? Like, that's the whole point. You can't call anyone. And then people they get so anxious, right?
Yeah.
And so where am I going to put this?
I mean, you can't put your social security number out there. You can't put your bank account number out there. So I guess people are taking some responsibility, but it's just like a lot more responsibility.
It is, because there really isn't anyone you can call.
Yeah.
Right. So it was very eye-opening. We still have a long ways to go in terms of usability, UI, UX, just making all of this a lot simpler, because otherwise I think not worried about the next generation, but if you want to get this one and the older generation on board, it has to get a lot easier.
Absolutely. The barrier to entry is quite high. I mean, just explaining like a recovery phrase to someone that is maybe 70, 80 years old that really doesn't use their computer or things like that, that's a challenge. Like, how do you bring them in? And yeah,
exactly.
It's especially younger kids as well. Like, let's say like 10-year-olds, right? They don't really understand finance yet. You need some way to bring them in that's not going to be intimidating at all. I know when I was 13, there wasn't a lot of Bitcoin adoption at the time, to be fair, but all I heard in my head was just numbers, adult things, like money. Like I just was kind of checked out. So we need like better ways to onboard these children and like all generations, because it is a huge learning curve. Do you think that, like, you've been seeing Bitcoin adoption basically since the beginning? How do you feel that it's progressing? Do you feel like we're at a good point? Do you feel like we should be more ahead in adoption?
I think it's getting a lot easier, right? I mean, being able to buy Bitcoin on PayPal and those mainstream apps is a huge step forward. And it's always being compared with the internet. And it's kind of true. A long time before you were online, we had things called modems, and they were plugged into the phone line, and you actually had to set up, the IP address and the subnet and what have you, and then it made crazy sounds, and it was very, very slow. And it really, I mean, it took like a master's degree in computer science to set up your modem and go online. Jeez. And now it's so easy to connect to Wi-Fi, you don't even have to think about it. And I think that's like, that's where we need to get, and that's where we will get.
Absolutely.
In terms of usability. And that will be, we haven't had that so-called Netscape moment yet, right? That was the moment when Netscape browser became so popular that all of a sudden it became really easy to browse the internet. That once we have that, whoever does that first is going to be very, very well off.
Absolutely. That's so interesting. Okay, do you mind picking a key phrase or a word for our friends in the chat to enter in order to win a ballet wallet?
Cool. Yeah, sure. So I'm going to make this a shameless plug in promotion of our Abu Dhabi conference that's coming up next year in March. So the word is hashtag BiddleCon.
B-I...
BUIDL con.
Got it. Got it. Okay, that's not how I would have pictured it at all, but thank you for spelling it for me. All right, guys, so enter this into the chat. I'm going to put it right here. Enter, please, to win a free ballet wallet. So do you mind telling everyone what conferences you guys host at Draper Gore and Holm, and the introducing of this one?
Yeah, sure. So our flagship event is LA Blockchain Summit. That's the oldest conference. It's the one that kind of evolved all the way back from Crowd Invest Summit. That's at the LA Convention Center every year in the fall. This year it's November 1 through the 3rd. Like I said, at the LA Convention Center, it's going to be a 3-day conference this year. One of the biggest we've done so far.
So cool.
Super, super excited about it. Then the next one is going to be BiddleCon. That's our first Middle Eastern conference in Abu Dhabi. That's on March 13 to 15 at the Abu Dhabi Exhibition Center. That's going to be in partnership with local government. That's going to be a very, very big conference too, because you know the UAE is known for many things, but not for coming in second when it comes to anything really, right? Like
yeah.
Biggest marina, highest towers, you know, biggest airport. So they want this conference to be very, very big. We have very strong support from them. So it's going to be a very exciting event.
Yes.
And then the third one is the one which is recently attended, the Security Token Summit in New York. That's in May. When is that?
I think that was May 15th and 16th.
9 and 10th.
Was it?
No, the next one.
Oh, the next one. Wow, you guys already got dates for the next one?
Oh, yeah.
It's you guys are crazy.
ETH.events. Check it out.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so crazy. Go on, Joseph. Keep going.
So that's the security token and digital assets focused one. And then, of course, there is Alon's Blockchain and Booze every week on Tuesday, right? That's the weekly virtual community hangout that we do.
Yes.
Alon's killing it on that one. You know that you've been on it.
Yes, I have.
And those are the 4 events that we have going on right now.
Wow, that is so sick. Security Token Summit, guys, like that was a blast. It wasn't like the ordinary crypto conference, which I thought was so awesome. It was a lot of traditional finance people that were there. And I know the Abu Dhabi people were there as well, and they absolutely loved it. I loved it. People from all demographics really loved that event. Do you mind sharing like why you guys started Security Token Summit in particular? Because a lot of people aren't really focusing on security tokens.
Well, it's simply because we, you know, as a fund, we invest across the board, right? We're use case agnostic, blockchain agnostic. So we have investments in the super unregulated, you know, DeFi, NFT, on that side of things. But then we also have investments on the more regulated side of things like Onera and Symmetria, companies that build solutions for banks.
Yeah.
So that's really where the digital asset space is very important to us, and we see a lot of opportunity there. And we're just not, you know, we're not the crypto maxis that you know essentially say you know, F you banks and see you later. I think we're going to have to work with them. Whatever the outcome is going to be ultimately, right? But for now, we're going to have to work with the banks and the regulators on many different fronts. And we felt like this deserves its own platform. And, you know, what better city than New York? You know, I mean, the global epicenter of finance than, you know, to host a conference like this at.
I agree. There were so many important people there. People from like, you know, the wisdom tree to like people that were working in crypto. So it was really an event for everyone to kind of merge. And the mayor was there as well. Eric Adams, mayor of NY. It was really awesome to see him as well, and to see his team kind of getting involved in cryptocurrency. Do you see a lot more politicians getting involved, especially because, you know, the Dubai government is kind of all over this? Do you see the US being the same?
In the US, I see mostly, some Congress people getting involved for probably their own personal reasons, and then, a bunch of mayors getting involved because they want, a piece of that pie of jobs that is being created in that space. I think, though, that, for the US to be able to compete with countries like the UAE, where they're very nimble and, to really be able to be a dominant player, there has something has to come down from the SEC, and that really gives clear guidances as to what's allowed and what's not allowed. It's just too much of playing Russian roulette still when you launch some kind of token project in the States, whether or not they're going to look at it favorably. So there's just so much uncertainty that I'm hopeful that now that more politicians are getting involved, we'll get more attention and the urgency it deserves to be resolved, just to make sure that the US isn't falling further behind.
Yeah, I mean, because we have like different sides of the spectrum here. You have states that are like, no, we don't like Bitcoin mining. I think New York is a part of that boat, sadly. And there's a lot of states that are against it, but then there's Texas, right? That they're literally mining their own Bitcoin, which is absolutely insane. So I do think we're gonna have a little bit like of a tiff here, in the states, where it's kind of gonna be this battle like for Bitcoin against Bitcoin. But like we were saying, like the Dubai government is really for this, and you said their response was like overwhelmingly positive. Why do you feel that they like crypto a lot? Why are they so progressive and we're not?
I think they're just really pragmatic about it. I don't feel like they're not looking at crypto as this silver bullet or saving grace that will just save the world or anything. It's just they understand that crypto and Web3 is here to stay, and they see a big opportunity to attract a lot of companies to move there. So they're taking it, right? It's just something that's too big and too important for them to skip. So I think that's really the approach that they're taking. And the big advantage is simply that when you have a top-down kind of government, the big boss decides something, the rest is just execution, right? The argument's over. There's no more infighting, there is no special interest, there are no lobbyists that try to push some special interest through. So that gives them, in this respect, a lot of advantage.
Yep, absolutely. Wow, that is so crazy. I mean, I know you said the conference you guys are doing in Dubai is gonna be really big. Do you mind sharing the dates for that again, just so I can put it in the
It's
chat?
March 13th through the 15th.
Wow.
It's gonna be in Abu Dhabi, and it's gonna be a good one. You'll see a lot about it online.
Wow, that is so cool. And you guys plan so far ahead. I mean, it's June right now and you're planning for next March. Like that's so insane.
Yeah, you have to. The
Yeah.
lead time for these events is just very long. And also we try to always coordinate with the other events to try to make sure we're not in the same dates in the same week and not creating the conflict. So it's always good to come out early with dates.
Absolutely. That's why I like you guys. You guys are so smart. You really think things out and you're prepared. Like I love people that are prepared, especially with events. They know what they're going to do. They know that like at least 10 months out, they're going to have a venue, they have dates, and you guys are connecting with other events, which is so perfect. And you've been in events for like literally almost forever, since you were my age, almost even younger.
Pretty much.
So what have you seen? Like, what is something you look for in doing an event? Because I know there's so many people out here trying to do crypto events, but sometimes they don't turn out as like zesty as they want. What is something you look for in coordinating an event?
Our approach is very different in the sense that we're not trying to make money with these events, right? That we're very happy for these events to break even. For us, it's more important to get the right people in the room. So you'll be surprised to know that we typically only sell about 60% of our tickets. 40% we give away. We give them away to minorities. We give them away to students. We give them away to startups who can't afford to come. Wow. We give away booth expo space to companies who can't afford it. If we think they're good, we want to work with them, maybe invest in them. We do all kinds of deals to support them. And it's essentially just to create a stage for our portfolio companies, for our investors, for our partners, to network and, grow their brand and grow their business, get everyone together, and that's the real motivator behind it. And we are very focused on quality. Like we don't do any of the Lambo stuff, the girls in bikinis and what have you, right? Like we're just trying to be very business focused and results driven, and keep the crypto bro thing, leave that to other conferences.
That is so amazing. I love that. You guys aren't like, you guys really just do things the right way, in a respectable way as well. Like just attending Security Token Summit, how well put together it was. Shout out to Matt Bosio too.
Oh yes,
Like
absolutely.
big
Matt
shouts to
killed it.
Matt. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Hearts for Matt. He is absolutely amazing. He just like, he's relentless too. It's like, Draper, Gore, and Holm, you guys are amazing, and your team is just crazy good. You guys really, like, even going to Security Token Summit, you guys did show out, and all you guys were there, whole Draper, Gore, and Holm, like the whole crew, and you guys were just really like interested in putting together an event where there were high quality people that were just interacting with each other, and the flow was great. Like, you always need a nice flow at events, and you guys
Absolutely.
definitely do that. Like, that's something I look for in an event too. Like, okay, the stage is occupied the whole day, so it's like you always go see someone, or there's stuff you could do downstairs, go talk to sponsors, booths. Like, that was just that's so great. Like, what kind of like people were you originally like looking for and bringing to an event? Because I know it was just like you and Alon at the start. So like, what were you guys looking for? Like, what quality people, or what did you look for in a project to come to an event?
So as far as headline speakers are concerned, you always try to get the big names, right?
Yeah.
So one of the early big players that we got on stage was Steve Wozniak in 2018, and that turned out really well, right? So Alon and I were arguing over who gets to interview Steve on stage, and then we decided to give it to one of our portfolio company CEO. And then he interviewed him and got the best video footage and photos out of it. And that was also one of our first exits to Coinbase last year. And it just goes to show how powerful these events can be when you put the right people on stage. And we're not very selfish, right? We always try to create the best content on stage, and always content that can't be found anywhere else. So we don't typically allow people to come and do their presentation thing that they do at 20 other conferences. We want content that you can't easily Google, right? Like stuff that's unique to our conference, either the combination of the speakers or the panel setup, because that's what it's really all about.
Exactly.
Remember the last panel? Did you still see the last panel where the regulators got into it?
Oh, I was doing interviews downstairs. I wasn't able to come up.
I actually missed it too. I just saw a little snippet. But it's always, for us, it's always the best moments when people get really passionate about something, and
yes,
and when it shows. Because we also, sometimes we try to find speakers who we really don't like. I'm not going to name any names, but we just go like, that person and that person on stage, this is what we should do. And we try to make that happen because that's good content. It's all about creating good content.
Absolutely. Good content is everything. I mean, there were a lot of good panels up at Security Token Summit, and yeah, people got into it. That's what you want to see. You go to a conference, you kind of have an idea of who you want to see and the type of like emotion that you're gonna feel, or like the type of vibe you're gonna get. Like when you go to a Draper Gore event, like you're gonna know what's up. Like you're gonna know who's there. And you guys, like you said, I really like that you guys don't skimp out on people that you want to bring to the conference. Like if there's someone in your head, you're gonna get them there, and like it's gonna be unique. I like that it's unique as well. Like you don't want to go to a conference and hear the same redundant thing that you hear on YouTube all the time or on Twitter all the time. Like you want to go to an event and like feel something. Like, you know what I mean? Like get that zest out of people.
No, exactly, 100%. There's nothing worse than a panel of 5 people agreeing with each other, right? Like, what are you guys doing up on stage?
Yeah, like let's get spicy. Let's tiff a little bit.
Yeah. So we always do that, and it's never, it's never driven by monetary decisions because someone is a sponsor or someone wants to pay to be on stage. Like we try to really stay away from that, and that's where, our mandate to just break even is really helpful, right?
Yes.
We don't need the events to make money. We need the events to be great because the events give us the best deal flow in the world.
Exactly.
And the best deal flow in the world means we're going to get the best LPs in our fund. And that's the end game for all of this, right? Is deal flow through the events and a platform for our LPs and our funds to invest in these startups, right? Like that's why we're doing all of this.
Absolutely. The networking that happens at the events is absolutely key. So I mean, you guys just wanting to break even is props to you, because a lot of conferences are really not having that mentality. And I think between the quality of people, the quality of the event, and the networking, I absolutely love it. I know there are some friends from LA in the chat, and a lot of people want to go to their first crypto conference. When is so you said LA Blockchain Summit is November 1st to the 4th, right? Or the 3rd?
To the 3rd, yes.
Yes. So, guys, visit dgh.events. I'm going to put it in the chat again, and make sure you guys keep up to dates, because Tom Allen is in the chat. He's from LA. He wants to go to an event. So check out this link and maybe stop by LA Blockchain Summit. That's going to be so exciting. Like, I can't wait to see. I think you said it was going to be one of your biggest ones, right?
This is going to be a good one. Yeah, it's the first 3-day event, so it will be big.
Oh my
God. Hundreds of speakers, thousands of people. It will be fun.
Yes, that's going to be amazing. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Joseph. Like, I had an amazing time. Where can people find you? Is there any last minute things you would like to share with the audience?
Well, I'm easy to find either on Twitter or LinkedIn, Josef Holm, JOSEF HOLM. It's also, you can contact us through the website, drapergoranholm.com. And this was fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really had a blast. Thank you for everyone in the chat for coming. Zach Bradley, Tom, Marky Mark, congratulations on winning the ballet wallet. Randy, Grand Lotus, Waxy Pax. Thank you everyone that came out. Nana, I love you. I miss you. I need some fresh eggs. She has a farm, and she has her own eggs, her own chickens, like just
love that.
Nature. Like,
yeah,
we're not, I don't know about you, but like, I'm not that in tune with nature. I'm in like the concrete jungle over here. Like, you know?
I'm actually looking into buying something close to where I grew up in the countryside, because I want my kids to spend more time in the country, and it's actually a little farm, so you can have some animals and stuff. So I'm looking into that as well, because it's really important, especially these days.
Absolutely. Another reason to like you, Joseph, because you're concerned about your children interacting with nature. I think that's so brilliant. Like, having your kids like actually outside, like just touching the grass for an hour will make a difference.
You know, that's how I grew up. When I said I was bored, my mom was like, "Here's the door. You know, go." We went. You know, I mean, for better or worse, we're unsupervised, doing our own thing, and went in the woods. And when it got dark, we came home.
Exactly.
There were no cell phones. God, I'm so glad I grew up before cell phone cameras and social media, and we could just do whatever, and it was a very different time. So I'm trying to recreate a little bit of that for my kids. I think it's important, because we always live in the big cities, and we travel around so much.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just feel grass under your feet.
Yeah, it helps. Like, even putting down the phone, like, even Marky Mark in the chat, putting down the phone for an iPad for a second. It's important. Like, I was hanging with a friend.
How hard is it to do?
It's hard. That's why I was like I was hanging out with a friend a week or two ago, and I was like, you know what? Like, let's just like leave our phones in this room and like go outside for like 2 hours, and just talk.
Yeah.
And that was like, we were both like, wow, we're going to do that? Yes.
What a novel concept.
Yes, it really is, because a lot of the time, like when you're talking, like you have the automatic reaction when there's a little bit of silence to go look down at your phone. Like, always.
Yeah. No, I catch myself doing the same thing, and I hate doing it. Every time I do it, I'm like, why am I looking at my phone now? But it's so muscle memory. Like, I don't even think.
Exactly. That's why I like doing these shows, because I don't like look at my phone for an hour. Like, yes, I'm like multitasking, doing 5 different things right now, but I get to talk to somebody without like the phone and texting interrupting us. Like, no. We're having a conversation. We're hanging out. So everyone at home, go outside, touch the grass for an hour. We all need it. Even if you live in New York like me, and the only patch of grass is outside of your building, where there's like a little patch of grass, touch it. I don't know. Like, enjoy it. Smell the fresh air. Go outside and enjoy yourselves. Take it easy, guys. I know we're going through a rough time with this market, but just remember to stay zesty and to stay bullish, okay? So have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you again, Joseph, for popping out and hanging out with us. I'm really looking forward to everything DGH has in the future and what you do in the future, because you're absolutely amazing. Thank you guys in the chat again. Have a great weekend. A happy Friday. And as always, stay zesty. Peace.
Good morning, crypto Twitter is missing crypto, spreading crypto with options showing its benefits. So to my generation, shout out to all my people, just seen